Okay, we're going to look at one more problem William has, which he needs money. And he's got to collect taxes from people. So we saw in the Philotech pyramid, in exchange for William letting people use his land, he required certain things, and sometimes that was services, sometimes that was, peasants giving crops, but it was also, particularly from the barons, money. These are what we call taxes. Your parents probably complain about them a bit. Now, in order to calculate tax, he needed to know how much land, property, animals, and money each person owned. Now, the way tax tends to work, even nowadays, is a certain percentage of what you earn or what you have to give to the government. 20% is about the average in most countries. So if you earn £1,000 a month, you're going to pay 200 of that to the government. Probably going to earn a bit more than that. It's probably going to be closer to 10, 100,000 crowns a month. But it's this sort of 20% you have to give. But he can only take his 20% or whatever percent he wants to take if he knows how much you have. So he decides not on 20% like we have nowadays, 1/10 of what they earn or what they produce, what they make as a tax. He called this a tithe. Now, in 1086, he comes up with this idea of asking his officials to survey the wealth of the nation, to work out what people actually had. Because if he's going to charge someone a tenth of everything they have, he needs to know what they have in order to work that out. If Miss Pierce asks you what's 10%, you're going to say 10% of what? He needs to know what the what is. Now, he sends his soldiers all over the country and he basically counts everything. It says here he had a Doomsday Book written and it lists everything the English owned so that he could tax it. I've got sort of the cartoon saying it's my favourite book. It's all about things that are mine. And it makes the point down there he couldn't actually read, but he definitely liked this book. Now, if we say we've got sort of a drawing, not a primary source, secondary source of this survey going on, and I've got the question there, would all welcome this change? Well, I'm not going to have you do the answers here, but the answer is probably not. Because, for obvious reasons, they don't want to give him their money. Now, what problems might this cause for William? Well, it caused lots of problems because he wants the people to be loyal to him. He wants them to respect him, but it's going to cause problems if he's seen to be taking their money. Now, this is a picture of the original Domesday Book. So it was commissioned, designed in December, so nearly 19 years after he wins the Battle of Hastings, after he becomes king. He decides he's going to pay for this book to be made. And the first draft all is completed about 8 months later, in August. And it says here it contains records of over 13 towns and villages in England at the time. Okay, so you can see here what was in it. It contained the records of the landholders, the tenants. So this is, if you think about the landholders are the barons or tenants, the people they lend land to, the knights who then have their own tenants who are the peasants. It includes the amount of land they own, how much woodland, meadow, animals, fish, ploughs, churches, mills, ponds, all of these things, because he's going to take 10% of it. Okay, why do we call it the Doomsday Book? It sounds quite sinister. Because it has every single detail recorded in the survey. So Judgment Day, which is when God would decide who was good and who was bad, sometimes called Doomsday, you can't escape that. So a bit like that, no one could escape being recorded in this book. And no one could escape paying taxes to William. Now you can see here some problems with the book. So I want you to think about what problems might you have if you've got a book that big. I'm going to move on to the task underneath. And you're going to fill in why did they have this book? And you've got to think of 3 reasons. There's information there to help you, and you can draw text boxes over the 3 boxes that I want you to write in.